It's another day and another dose of Did You Know? And today with me is, let's see if it's Bob Greene, but state representative in New Hampshire, correct?
That's right. That's right.
I didn't write down what district it was. I know Nashua, but.
Yeah, I'm in Hillsborough County, District 37. I represent the towns of Hudson and Pelham.
Hudson and Pelham. I do know where those are. People are always like, Danielle, you've lived here for 25 years. You were born here. And sometimes I'm still like, where's that city? Where's that town? Like geographically, I stink.
Right. Yeah. I'm right just east of Nashua. You know, I'm just across the river from Nashua. I mean, I can literally, from my window right now, I can see Nashua from my house. I mean, I'm real close to the Merrimack River. So yeah, we're a border town, and then Pelham is the next town to the east of us.
Okay, that's why Nashua stuck out in my head. But
right.
Small little, before I get going, because I'll just like spew. I have so many things I want to chat with you about. But who is Bob Greene? And a little synopsis. Give us a little background on you.
Well, you know, it wasn't too long ago I updated my LinkedIn profile or my Instagram profile, and I just kind of got it down to like 4 different words. I put like legislator, musician, runner, designer. I mean, I guess maybe I'm someone consider like a Renaissance man. I've, reinvented myself a few times during my life. You know, when I was young and in college and studying music, I was extremely one-dimensional, which I think is important to have any sort of success as a musician. I mean, I think I'm a pretty smart person. I didn't always think that way. When I was growing up, I had bad self-esteem. I didn't have the best family situation. I was, people said I was dumb sometimes, even my father sometimes. But in my mid-20s, I went to Walden Books one day and I saw an IQ test on the magazine rack you could buy. So I took it home and took the test, and I was surprised with the results. And I followed it up. There's a phone number in the test you could call if you did well. And I got a proctored exam set up with Mensa, the high IQ organization. So I actually went in and took a live proctored Mensa test and did well on that. And I got accepted to Mensa. So I thought, maybe I'm not so dumb after all. But it was a huge paradigm shift. It was a really big paradigm shift. It was kind of a life-changing thing right there. And I was in Mensa for a year or two, but I stopped going to the meetings. So I didn't renew my membership. It wasn't that big of a deal to me. But still, just to go through that process, that was a huge thing.
Well, it did its place for you, and I have to say, you must have you had it in you, because just the fact that, because I know so many people that kind of had the same growing up story as you, and including myself, and but that didn't stop you. You you saw something in a bookstore and you're like, hey, so. Right.
Well, yeah, I also describe myself as being driven. I remember in high school, and I was active in the band program. I actually took a course in music theory. And sometimes in the class, we got off on tangents. And the band director went around to the 6 of us in class. It was a small class. And he went around to tell us, each of us, what our biggest problem was. And when he got to me, he said, well, Bob, your biggest problem is you have too much ambition. You're too ambitious. Or like driven. Well, that was maybe a pretty accurate thing. I mean, I developed a love for music when I was young, and I thought in high school I was going to go on to college and major in music, maybe play professionally. But at the same time, because I didn't think I was good or smart enough to do anything else, as I developed as a musician, a lot of it was out of fear of failure. I was just so afraid of failing. I mean, and there was a couple of times during my college career I considered changing majors because I thought, boy, this is just, I don't have a chance in whatever, to do this. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. I was driven, but I was driven by fear. There was a really two-edged sword.
Did you also very close, Andrew, my friend Andrew, who I was actually telling you about before, he's on Instagram, and I missed him saying hi to him live yesterday. So I'm kind of making up saying, hey, Andrew, I see you. But was that part of your reason after college? After college, you joined the military. Was that part of your mindset of it? Like, how did you get there?
I mean, when I was in grad school, even though I had these fears, I just, following someone else's example, I just stubbornly said to myself, that does it. I've been at this for a long time, working real hard, thousands of hours of practice and lots of gigs and everything. I'm going to be a professional musician one way or another. That's it. End of story. Even if I have to join a military band, I was snarky about it. Even if it's just a military band, you know, I'm gonna do this, you know. So I mean, which is, yeah, it was a snarky attitude. But then I heard some of my other college classmates, musicians, they're playing in an Air Force band, and I got to hear them play, and I really liked it. And I bugged them for a better part of a year. Let me know when there's a bass trombone opening. Let me know. And I wasn't hearing from them. I finally wrote a letter to their commander and asked him, and he got back to me right away and said, now this is like spring of 1987. He got back to me and said, yeah, we anticipate a bass trombone opening this fall. Call this guy at this number, set up an audition. So I did. I went the next month and auditioned. I passed their audition. And then the next step was just, and then and only then did I set foot into a Air Force recruiter's office. I went in there the very next day in Bloomington, Indiana. I said, I just auditioned for an Air Force band. I passed the audition, and I wish to enlist in the United States Air Force, but only to be a musician. Don't try to put me into some other job, or, you know, don't have me scraping, you know, bird crap off the flight line in Guam or something, you know. This is this. I want to do this, and this is how I want to do it. But I was a recruiter's dream because they work real hard to get their numbers, you know, their quotas, and I felt I dropped out of a cloud, you know. So, but he was real cool. My recruiter was a former drill instructor, military training instructor in the Air Force, and he set me up for success. And so you know, that's how I got into the military. I got into the Air Force band program. I think it's the best of any of the other branches as far as the music program. I already had 2 college degrees, so that was pretty typical for Air Force musicians. Even back in the 80s, people with college degrees going into being as enlisteds, not as officers, as enlisteds. And whereas if you go into the Marine music program or Navy or Army, after your basic training, they send you to an Armed Forces School of Music in Virginia. But the Air Force, we don't do that. We go directly from basic training, direct duty to our assigned band. And so that's basically my transition there.
And your description, when we were talking before about, we were talking about kind of like the politics in the, you know, in the veteran community, about how sometimes they fight against each other, or, you know, have their own, I'm better, you're better. And the way you described your service reminded me so much of probably how you ended up being a state representative. You know, you did it for the people. You were representing your military members, the people that you know, serve our country. And you were very proud about that. And now here you are, a state representative. Do you see that connection, or is that just absolutely my wacky mind kind of thing?
No, absolutely. I mean, it was like one of the great things about being in the Air Force is that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And then now here, you know, I'm living in New Hampshire, and I see some things I wasn't happy with going on politically. And I saw also an amazing opportunity to be a state rep, even though I had never even run for as much as dog catcher in the past. We can do this in New Hampshire like we can't do in any other state. It's just really amazing. But there again, I saw another example of another situation where I can be part of something bigger than myself. And that was a big part of why, you know, I decided to do this. And yeah, that's the link right there. I think that's the big commonality between the two. Is you're serving others, and you get to be part of something, you know, bigger.
I didn't realize, and which I love, like, this is the live free or die state. I love that motto. I'm always about obviously living free, and our freedom is very important to me. Like, I always say to, like, my son and to other people, I could never join the military. That is not, I'd be scared out of my mind. I don't think it's within me. But now, as I feel like freedoms are kind of being taken away, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I could do my part, sure. Right?
There's so many different ways to serve, right?
Yeah, not just sitting back. I see it a little bit differently. But you told me when, in your notes to me, about how, I don't want to say simple because nothing is simple, but how much easier it is to run for, say, Senate or, you know, in New Hampshire than it is any other state. People think you need to have deep pockets.
Right.
But we really are like a very constitutional, very primitive state.
Right. Yeah. Just to, try to keep this under 500 words. Yeah. Especially for state rep. Now, state senate here, that's still kind of a costly endeavor. But for state rep in New Hampshire, you can do it for like $1,000 or $2,000. Now, if you're in some districts where you don't have an opponent, well, you might be able to get by for next to nothing. But
Yeah.
But no, I took some good training with an organization 2 years ago called the 603 Alliance, and they're pretty darn accurate. They said figure on an average of $2,500 to run for state rep. Now, I spent about that much, but I could have spent less. I splurged on some things. I bought a full color newspaper ad for my town paper the week before the election. That cost $400.
Yeah.
I bought too many yard signs. I probably could have not spent $500 less on the yard signs. So that was half of the budget right there. These, like what you see right here, these yard signs. I mean, they're like $5 a pop,
Oh, wow.
So think about that.
Things that add up when you see them everywhere.
Right. So, but still, but I got a fair amount in donations too. I mean, I really could have run last time if I had been more frugal. I mean, I bought like some caps and buttons and bumper stickers. I got these car magnets, so I'm driving around like a moving billboard. Stuff that you don't have to do, but I could have run last time around, and I could have done it for under $1,000. Looking back on it,
right?
I really wanted to.
When I heard that, I was like, gosh, I love that even more about our state and how important it is. And just when we were having this conversation, if you don't rely on someone else to do, if you see a hole, if you see a need, if you see a place to serve, it is your duty to somehow pop in where you see fit. Like, I would not be a good state representative. I would be like, my ADD would be everywhere. I would be like, I don't even know what you're speaking.
It's not stopping me. I have ADD. But the way I was thinking a couple of years ago is that I didn't like when I saw some things going on in the House, votes that should have passed that didn't pass, and then I heard about the absenteeism problems, people just not showing up. And I talked to my manager at work, at the time. I said, I'm thinking about running for state rep. Can I do this and flex my hours, and work from home, this and that? She said, sure. So, which was great. And that was the green light. So I thought, I'm going to do it. I see high school kids. I see, or I see people right out of high school or college students that are running for New Hampshire state representative. Crying out loud, I have a lot more life experience than they do. I am a principled conservative, but I also can show up. And those two things alone are going to make me very qualified to do this job. No, I don't have the institutional knowledge that other folks have who have been in the House for decades. I don't come from a legal background or an accountant or, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I mean, I helped my dad run our business when I was in high school. So I guess I do have some perspective there, but I thought I'm principled and I can show up, and 90% of life is showing up. So I'm going to do this. I'm having these conversations a lot lately with people because we're heavy in the recruiting season right now for state rep. Here in New Hampshire, as early as the first week of June, you can go into your town hall, fill out some forms, pay $2, and get on your ballot to be a state rep. So I'm having a lot of these conversations right now, and I'm telling people, that it's easy to say somebody else should do that. Oh, I can't do that. Somebody else should do that. Well, you know what? To someone else, you're the someone else. You're someone else's someone else. That's kind of like my new little tag phrase or whatever. You are somebody else's somebody else. So,
yeah.
If I can do it, anyone can. And like I said, it doesn't cost a ton of money. Where in any other state, it would cost me like $25,000 plus to be a state representative.
That is a major, major difference. And you're doing your part. And that's kind of why when we first met a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I would love to have you on and share it. And it doesn't matter where you stand. I happen to agree with you and align with you. So that's always a bonus in the conversation. But the point that you are there, the point that I kind of actually even like that you don't come from the system, because then you're more real with the people. I mean, we, the people, are the ones that need to have our voice spoken about. And sometimes we are human beings, and it happens in, happens in towns and states and countries, but in companies, big companies and CEOs, the people working, the ones that are creating the momentum and creating the existence, no longer get heard because the pockets
Right.
get deeper and greed and ego happen.
Exactly.
So I love that you're just a guy saying like, I don't really care for that. So I'm going to stand up.
People in the New Hampshire House and Senate, they come from all walks of life. We have, I would say it gravitates more toward retirees and self-employed because it's easier for them to make the commitment with their hours and stuff. But we have stay-at-home moms, we have college students, we have entrepreneurs, real estate agents, and this people from all walks of life. And it's really what the founding fathers intended. We only get paid $100 a year, so it doesn't encourage career politicians. It's what the founding fathers intended. No matter who you are, be a representative of the people for a small portion of your life, do a few terms at the most, and then go back to your life. I mean, George Washington, our first president, he was a reluctant president. He served 2 terms reluctantly, but he saw that the country needed him, and he did it. And then he went back to Mount Vernon. He didn't hang out, in Washington D.C.
Living out his glory days, so to speak.
Yeah. He did his thing, and then he went back home. That's what the founding fathers had in mind, and we're a pretty diverse bunch. I thought I had a little diversity when I ran because at the time I was working, I saw all these retirees, and I didn't see a lot of people like myself who actually have to punch a clock, so to speak. And right. So I added that to the mix.
And
that's what I thought.
Well, good for you. Thank you, I have to say, for that. Now, going back, you told us a little bit about your history, so I can kind of see the how you became Bob Greene. But when you look back, were there same mindsets that you can see within yourself that maybe, like I can see when you went to the bookstore and you're like, I'm going to take this IQ test, screw everybody telling me I'm stupid, I'm going to find out for the truth. Mm-hmm. Were there other aspects of your life that you can remember that kind of brought you to have, you kind of have this love for your country and this love for right and wrong, and really, I'm not going to accept. I'm not just going to lay down and accept if I feel like this isn't the right thing.
I think there was something that happened just over the course of my Air Force career. As a musician, we toured a lot. We played mostly civilian concerts. We'd do the occasional base parades or change of command ceremonies on military bases, but most of my performances were for the public. High school gyms, high school auditoriums, things like that. So I got to travel all over the country, and people, all sorts of just ordinary people came to our concerts. I mean, a lot of veterans, of course, but they come up and talk to us afterwards, and I hear their stories. I mean, a lot of them would tell us, well, I served here and I did this, they're reminiscing, which was great. But I got to meet a lot of just everyday people. I mean, I don't think it really got me out of my bubble. And I could see, I spent a lot of time in what we call, disparagingly, flyover country. I mean, I did a lot of concerts in Missouri and Arkansas and Central Illinois and things like that. And so you get to meet, the salt of the earth, the people, who the blue collar types who are, who are building your houses and, transporting your food, to the market so it gets to your table and things like that. I was really in close touch with that element of America for 20 years. And so it really helped, shape my values, and of course develop a love of country as well.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 20 years. Yeah, that is like a constant, what's not reassurance, but kind of like sticking it, like this is creating your beliefs. That's what I want to say. 20 years of building and creating this belief that you have that now you are putting into play in, thank goodness, my state, because there are more people in the state that I live in. Well, I always say I have this love-hate relationship with New Hampshire. I'm putting it out there. Like, I love New Hampshire because it's live free die. I love New Hampshire that it's very humbling. People like you, like myself, that, you see something and you do it. There's so many people that are like that. And I find it's more, I don't want to be like political and be like, Massachusetts people stay out. But New Hampshire people tend to be more constitutionalist. You know, what this country was based off of. And so that's what, those are things I love about New Hampshire.
Sure.
The reason I'm still here is because of my husband. I would leave in 2 seconds. It used to be very, you know, my family was here and now my family's not here. So I miss my family. So that's basically why I'm not like, want to stay here. It's just because I miss my family, not because of all of those great things. But thank God for those great things. And thank God for people like you, because it makes me having to stay away from my family so much easier. That was my own like soapbox tangent on New Hampshire. Sorry about that. I just realized I went on a whole personal tangent there about.
No, I mean it's yeah. This state is a special place. I mean, and the way I kind of ended up here was I did my final. I was stationed in Germany from 2000 to 2003 with the Air Forces in Europe, and I did my stint there, and I had about 4.5 years left of 20. So no matter where I came back stateside, I really had a choice, because as a trombone player, I would have been an overage no matter where I went. So I could choose really wherever I wanted to come back stateside. I was thinking about my post-Air Force life to be a graphic and web designer. And I thought, well, I might want to go out to Travis Air Force Base in California, be close to San Francisco. That's a big design sort of centric city. Or I could stay on the East Coast. I could go to Hanscom Air Force Base. That would be near Boston. And so that's what I did. I chose Hanscom. And initially, when we moved back to the States in 2003, we bought a house in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. And I got to know North Central Massachusetts. And I quickly realized between that and just living in Massachusetts, that this area of the state is not where my post-Air Force career is going to be located. It needs to be somewhere. I kind of thought of a corridor, like a 90-feet corridor between Boston and Concord, New Hampshire. Somewhere along there is where I'm going to find my next career outside the Air Force when I retire. And so one weekend, it was like 15 years ago at this time, my wife and I, we came up to the Nashua area. We were looking at houses. And then we found one in Hudson we liked, and that's where we settled. That's how I ended up in New Hampshire back in 2005.
I want to answer this before, I know we have to wrap up here, but before that, you lived over in Germany. Did you see a huge difference between the culture in Germany and just your own personal, community of culture than when you were here in America?
Oh, definitely. The Germans definitely have their customs, Yeah, it just and the way they act in public and everything, and the manners. There's a definite difference, but they're very friendly people. They're very appreciative of the American presence in their country. So, but yeah, there's some definite differences, and there's a lot of things you get briefed on when you first get over there, like on Sunday. That's quiet day in German villages, so you don't go run your lawnmower. And on Saturday mornings you sweep your sidewalk and your front walk. So. Yeah.
Actually, those things probably should be some of those old school, like what we used to do in America. Like I remember my grandparents telling me things like this, and we should maybe incorporate a little bit of that here.
When you go to visit someone's house, it's expected you're going to either bring flowers or a bottle of wine, things like that. But they're great people, very appreciative of us.
Yeah. All right. I had that was my own. Didn't expect that, but I was very curious about the difference that you saw, in your world. Curiosity sometimes get me so off track, But maybe I'm like squirrel or shiny object.
Right.
This question I ask everybody, so you don't know it, I don't think so, but right now and today, because I am a relationship expert and I love in life, I think it makes us who we are as individuals. Mm-hmm. So today, in this moment, as Bob Greene sits here, what does love look like, mean, feel, taste, smell to you? When I say, what is love? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I gave us a lot of thought the past day or so how to answer this question. I mean, first of all, it's personified, my 30-year marriage to Kathy, so definitely, it was the best decision of my life. We've been coping real well in close proximity during a lockdown, surprisingly well. It's been great. We stayed together, even though we weren't able to have children of our own, but we stayed together anyway. We decided, well, these are the cards that were dealt to us, and we're going to make the best of them. And we have in some ways. I mean, when we were stationed in Europe for 3 years, we traveled constantly. We went all over the place, and I could see the families over there with children until they couldn't do that sort of stuff. But we could, we could go to Paris on a weekend, or we could go or spend Thanksgiving weekend in Paris or Berlin, or we're being in Germany. You're very centrally located to travel throughout the continent. So there was that. I mean, and we have travel experiences that we'll cherish for a lifetime, So, but we didn't feel sorry for ourselves either. We thought, that we believe strongly that everything happens for a reason, whether it's God's will or karma, whatever. Everything happens for a reason. You may not know the reason, you may not understand it or want to understand it, but that the fact remains, everything happens for a reason in your life, whether it's good or bad. But getting back to love, I would also say, lately, love to me is also personified. We're just observing the protests right now in this country. People want lives back to normal. They want their rights restored. They want to be able to go back to work. They want to be able to visit their relatives that are in long-term care facilities, or that maybe they're in hospice care, and to me, that's love. I mean, these are people who love their country, they love the Constitution, and they want to stand up for what they love. So that right at this very moment, that's what love looks like to me right now.
Yeah.
And it's an extension to me of our president. People look at our president, I see a lot of different things, but one of the things I see is love. I see love of country. I see so much love that he gave up, running his businesses, and he's taken a big personal financial loss to do this. And he also doesn't even take a dime of his paycheck. Every quarter he gets his presidential pay, and he donates it to various things. So, that to me is love.
Yeah. Action and, acceptance and action. You can accept things that you don't like in a loving, caring way. You don't have to do it negatively and aggressively. So yeah, that is very well put. Thank you. I love finding out these answers. It does something, inside here. And thank you so much you are a busy man. This is, I don't know, you rattled off all of your conference calls and Zoom calls that you've already done today. So thank you for taking the time to share who Bob Greene is, what you're all about, and how you've kind of gotten to where you are. It's very inspiring. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Just one last little parting comment here. Just that any of you, if you think about running to be a state rep, like I said, don't wait for somebody else. You're someone else's someone else. If you want to run as a Republican, you can get a hold of me, and I can get you in touch with the right people, the right resources, and you can learn from soup to nuts, just like I did 2 years ago. So.
Thank you for being a man of service. And to everybody out there, until next time, love hard and love pure and love true. Take care.
Thank you.